Welcome, my friend, to the On the Blue Line podcast with Wayne Mulder. I am your host, Wayne Mulder, and this is the podcast that empowers law enforcement officers by equipping you with the tools to find success in all areas of your life. The purpose of this podcast is to educate, but also to provide entertainment. Thank you for joining me. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope you and your family are having a wonderful day. If you're listening to this on the day it released, then it is Thanksgiving Day. But if you're not, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving as well. This week, I am sitting down with a guest, Adam Haidary. This was a great conversation. The three things that you're going to learn from this podcast was what it was like transitioning from a cop to a business owner, the best training course Adam felt he ever got to attend while in law enforcement, and what the one thing it took to create a large social media following around reviewing body cam footage. I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. Adam Haidary, he's got quite a following on Police Post on Instagram, and he is the owner of Effective Fitness Training and some offshoots of that are working in the law enforcement physical fitness space, as well as I would say it also would be in the mental space as well, because mindset has a big part to do with what he's doing. I really enjoyed sitting down with Adam. You could tell that he's the kind of guy that gets things done, has a vision, and he's executing that vision. And I think you're going to really enjoy the way that he tells his story. So without taking any more time, here's this week's guest, Adam Haidary. Well, Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is awesome. I'm glad we can sit down and have a little conversation. I'm glad you reached out.
Of course.
Let me start as I always do. These are the easy softball questions, if I may. Is it coffee?
Yeah,
is it coffee or tea, sir?
Tea.
Really? Now, I'm assuming, especially since we're going to talk about fitness today, we're not talking sweet tea. Is it hot tea or what kind of tea are we talking here?
Probably hot tea. I do drink coffee it's very rare. I drink a lot of coffee as a cop, and the doctor basically was, asked me just my overall habits. And when I told him I was drinking 5 cups a day, he's like, "You should probably stop." I was like, "Yeah, okay, well, you're right." Cause he's like, 300 milligrams is about the threshold per day. You're doing about 1,200. So
did you mention you were a high achiever at any point?
Yeah, right. I was like, I don't like to quit anything, doc. So,
right.
But yeah, no, it's usually hot tea. I actually try to stay away from caffeine as much as possible, believe it or not.
Very good. Now, do you have a favorite place to have that drink? Like a place that's peaceful, brings you comfort?
2 kids makes it tough. Probably my garage.
A moment of respite.
Yeah. It's kind of like my second office. I have my gym. I have some mats in there. So it's a place I spend probably half of my day, believe it or not.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Do you have a best or worst travel story?
The wife and I used to travel a lot out west and do a lot of hiking. She was a travel nurse, go figure. And we used to go out west a lot and travel. We used to these 10-day hiking trips. And this was all pre-kids.
Right.
And man, it was great. I definitely recommend people go out and check out places like national parks like Zion and Arches and Glacier. And we spent some time in Banff, which is up in Canada, which is absolutely, it doesn't look real on pictures,
right.
But it's definitely, man, it definitely does some good for the soul for sure. So I'd probably say those are the best travels I've had.
What is that place that brings you the most peace? Your favorite spot to just kind of stop, breathe, and enjoy life?
Probably the opposite is probably the jiu-jitsu mats, man, where people try to stop you from breathing.
You're not the first person to say that with BJJ, which I always find interesting.
Man, I can't tell you what that does to the body and the mind after. It's a really good, even if it's the worst day on the mats you ever had, it's still a good day on the mats. Even if you're not, you kind of plateauing or you're not feeling like you're on time like you should be, like your movements are too slow. After that, you feel better even. That's probably my church.
I love it.
Had to make it a place. Yeah.
So let's get started a little bit with your origin story. You were in law enforcement. What what brought you to law enforcement, and what were you doing kind of before you went into law enforcement? And then what did you do when you went in, and where were you working?
Yeah. So in college is where I kind of, obviously I went to high school, played sports, went to college, small university here in South Carolina, and wanted to go into the medical field. I really liked the anesthesia route, whether it be a CRNA or even an MD. And then I quickly realized that I'm not that smart. And then, so I decided but I've always wanted to help, and I've always wanted to do something. Like I always wanted to serve other people in some type of way, besides the food and beverage industry. And so
that is a way to do it, though.
That is a way to actually serve the public, but
quite literally,
it wasn't my forte. And so one of my best friends, both his parents were cops, and obviously kind of being around them. His dad was was a team leader on a SWAT team, and so I got to go. He was very open about kind of bringing us in, letting us watch, or even just letting us partake in certain scenarios and stuff like that, which was really cool in college. Then I ended up interning for an agency here in South Carolina for about a year, my senior year. But in the meantime, I was working for my dad. He owned a industrial commercial floor cleaning equipment company for like 30 years. And I basically did all that growing up. And so I was doing that part-time. Then, once I graduated college, I started to apply to, I think, 3 different agencies. And then I got picked up, and then had that whole process of interviews and background checks and all that stuff. And then I became a police officer at 24 years old, I believe. Very young.
Yeah.
Very young, almost too young sometimes, I think. And then, of course, did the whole, went to the academy for 12 weeks here in South Carolina.
Wow.
So every cop goes to the same academy. So every class 1 police officer, no matter who you work for, goes to the same police academy. So
how many hours? Do they measure it in hours, or do they only go?
It is hours. I don't remember. I just know it's 12 weeks. And our academy is a little different. So you stay on campus. It's almost like a hotel. So you go there Sunday night, and then you don't leave till Friday afternoon. And then every Friday there's a test, I think up to like week 10. And if you fail that test, you go home.
Wow.
So it's not hard. It is kind of stressful because like you really, the food is terrible. The coffee's even worse. It's just, information through a fire hose, and they expect you to then take a test. Again, it wasn't difficult. Some people did fail. And then after that, obviously you graduate the police academy, which gives you your class 1 certification. And then you go to your agency and obviously do whatever training, your FTO, specialized training, whatever. And then you go to work.
Yeah.
Right. And then
was that a PD or a sheriff's department?
It was with this. It was with the state agency.
Oh, state. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was not a trooper. So in South Carolina, we have like 7 or 8 branches of the state police.
Okay.
And so I was assigned to Charleston County, and so from there, I was assigned to work with the county and the city and stuff like that, work in specialized things, but also doing patrol work. So it was very, I got a lot of experience in 5 years. And then, so 5 years on patrol, I ended up getting transferred to the training unit full time. So only spent 5 years and got promoted, air quotes, to a full-time training sergeant. And that was very eye-opening for me, especially because I was also very young, right? I was like maybe 29 years old, 28, 29 years old. And I got a lot of exposure into budgets and meetings and things like that, where on the patrol side, you're not really, I don't want to say privileged to that information, but it's just not part of your job.
Right.
And it really got the mind kind of going. But prior to that, I was attending a lot of training on my own, medical training, firearms training, jiu-jitsu, things like that. I was doing prior to being promoted into the training. Now, it's not like I was promoted because I was some like amazing person at training. Is because nobody else really wanted the job.
Gotcha.
And I put in for it.
Okay.
That was something that I took a lot of pride in, because sometimes it can be a very cush position. It's like, oh, well, it's just training. You go to in-service, you teach in-service, you do this, do that, get all these instructor certs and all this stuff, and then you just kind of ride it out till you retire.
Yeah.
I was young and I was all about implementing new training and going to new trainings and stuff like that. So, bringing that fresh kind of look. Well, and kind of in that meantime, I left with about 7 years in. It was due to a little bit of the changing command staff. Had a little bit of had some issues with some of the command. Not all of them. Some of them are amazing humans and great cops, but some of them should not be in this profession by any means whatsoever. And so then I decided to devote my time to effective fitness training and develop that as I wanted to get back into it. I said, well, let me see where this goes. If this starts to take off, then this will be it. If not, then I'll go back into law enforcement because your certification is good. You can just transfer out wherever. And then fast forward 3 years and here we are. Right.
Wow.
So very exciting. A lot has changed in about 3.5 years.
The whole world has changed in the last 3.5 years.
Yeah. So I got out like right before George Floyd, literally like weeks.
All right. So you got to watch from the outside as the world literally.
I did.
burned.
I had my friends come by my house with their beat up cinder block, abused patrol vehicles, asking for gear. One of my best friends is he's an active canine sergeant here, and he's like, "Hey man, you got an extra bump helmet? You got an extra helmet?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, please take whatever you want. Take all my shit." And he was like, "Yeah," because he was man, it wasn't bad down here for very long. Luckily in this county, we don't really play that game.
Right.
You start to destroy shit, you get locked up real fast. So
I'm very fortunate. That's been my reality as well. So when I talk to people from other parts of the country who are in some of these city centers and I hear their horror stories, my heart goes out to them, but I cannot completely relate with it because I've been very fortunate.
Right. Same. It's been interesting.
Something you had talked about, I think I had heard you talking about in another podcast, was just even like getting tourniquets for the guys. And I found that completely shocking to me. I'm very fortunate to be at a very forward-thinking agency, and I've only ever worked under one sheriff because he's been very popular. And so as long as he wants the job, he'll have the job. And he's very forward-thinking, and we have a lot of military training and stuff that's come into the agency over the years. And so when I hear these things like tourniquets or Narcan or, that a lot of officers don't even have out there or they have to go out and buy their own, I definitely feel for them because we've essentially always had them. Was that the kind of headaches you were having as a training sergeant, was getting some of the equipment that you needed?
Correct. Yeah. So we didn't even have a TAC med program or even like a patrol program as it pertained to medical training. It was just your basic CPR, AED, first aid type stuff. I was fortunate enough to be able to send myself to, I actually went up to North American Rescue, which is here in South Carolina, and I was able to attend their TCCC course here. And it was absolutely the best. I've been through a few of the courses, medical classes, and that was probably by far the best one. So that was just my little taste into the medical kind of training world. And I saw that, I was like, man, this is stuff we need to know. Like we're not issued this equipment, anything like that. Like we're not trained on this. And so then when I became a training sergeant, one of my first implementations was a TAC med program. And I became a stop the bleed instructor. I went up to, they actually flew me out. One of my captains was super progressive, and he basically told me, go train wherever you want to train, bring some knowledge back. So I spent a week with Tulsa PD, Tulsa SWAT team in Oklahoma, and their medics and their training course is absolutely like beyond words. Those dudes do work. And so it was really good to see how they implement things and how they even, implement gear into the patrol side. And so I brought all that back, got quotes for IFACs and tourniquets and all that stuff, and got a little pushback on the pricing. And that's kind of where I was started to see like, why is this such a big deal? It's literally $20 for a life-saving device that could last, could last 3 years if they don't use it or whatever the expiration is. So it's not something they have to replace every 3 months unless they use it. Right. So, kind of kept getting pushback. And of course I found loopholes around that where I can only spend so much money per month. And so I just started buying them in kind of lots, like I can buy 250 at a time per month, and was able to then implement that into in-service training. And then now they do it, since I've left, now they do it every in-service, if not multiple times, which is absolutely outstanding. So that was the first headache that I've had to deal with. There's obviously many more, but that was the biggest one.
Yeah, that seems like there always is. I've personally seen someone's life, fellow officer's life, get saved with a tourniquet on a scene. So definitely a strong proponent of what those can do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've had, I believe right after we implemented it, we had 2 saves within months. One was an officer involved shooting. The officer was fine. It was the suspect's life he saved, contact shot in the bicep. And then the other one was actually was like a public worker, got ran over by like a dump truck or something. His leg did, and got completely mangled. And it was a lieutenant that got out and saved the individual's life. And he called me, and my buddy who was in the shooting, he justified shooting, all that stuff. He's back at work, and he called me and just said, "Tourniquets work." And then he just hung up the phone. I said, "All right, man, I'll talk to you later."
I love that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it just goes to show you, like, could you think about, okay, well, that was 2 in like 6 months of each other. What, could have happened if we had these 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Right. Like,
absolutely.
Makes you think.
Well, and not to get political, but that's kind of the irony or the interesting side of this whole defund the police is right. It literally should be the opposite because right. we don't have the funds at a lot of these agencies for the equipment. It's not, again, very blessed. It's not standard for like detective sergeants to have shields and entry tools. Some places have that, but look at the number of places that don't have these basic items that you need in law enforcement. And then look at not only that, but then when we look at attrition and all these other issues and training, these are all comes back to money. And that's so defund the police, besides the political side that we could talk about forever.
Sure.
Just the statement makes zero sense because it literally should be the opposite. You have to fund these programs.
Right. I mean, you want better anything. You want better food, you want a better car, you want better clothes, you want better gear. Costs money. Costs more money.
Yes.
Right.
What were you seeing from a national perspective? And where I'm going with this is you ended up starting an Instagram page, or you ended up involved in an Instagram page. I don't know that you started it, but Police Post.
Correct.
So can you kind of take me into that evolution? Because I'm assuming some of the things you were seeing and what we've touched on as a sergeant in training kind of led to what you're doing with Police Post.
Right. So, yeah, correct. I did not start Police Post. I was asked to help with it. A buddy of mine I believe he was in the academy. I didn't actually meet him in the academy. We met out of the academy. He just worked for a different agency within the state police, and super good guy. He's still an active cop, but he basically had a bunch of kids, and that took a lot of time away from him.
It does that.
So right, and so I was able to. At the time I had no kids. I didn't have a girlfriend, so I was able to focus on the page. And at the time, it was just posting like pictures of cops doing cop things, like standing by their car, and just like your typical kind of fan page, with a little bit of like political stuff in there, which I'm not a huge fan of. But anyways, when I kind of took it over, I saw something, it was something I did at work. As a matter of fact, I usually use this story because this is the one that I truly remember as it kind of being the reason why I made the first post. Was a guy was passed out drunk at a green light, and I was behind him, and I was like, why isn't this guy going? It's a green light, he should be going. And of course I turn the lights on, get out of the car, and he's just like, head back, foot on the brake, car and drive, super nice Mercedes, golf clubs in the back. So I assumed that he had, just left the golf course. And I walked in front of the car to get around to the driver's side, in front of the car. And, luckily he was still asleep. We ended up getting him out, all that stuff. And when I got back to kind of debrief with myself, I was like, that's pretty fucking dumb. That was pretty stupid, man. Like, what if you scared this guy at a green light, he just floored it, and I'd be got smashed by $100,000 Mercedes. And again, dude, I was very young, maybe like right, maybe a year out of FTO. So like still not really sure what was going on.
Right.
So then I just found a similar video. And at that time on Instagram, you can only post like 15-second clips. So I found a very similar video. This was when I was in my probably mid-20s.
Okay.
And so, yeah. And then I just posted it. And then that's when it kind of took off. And I was like, man, this is kind of cool. So then I started posting more and more training points, just very obvious things, nothing super technical, nothing super like, there's no secrets really. Just, hey guys, whenever you're conducting stops, like don't rush the vehicle after a pursuit, have I done that? Yeah.
We stupid. All have, but don't do it.
Right. It was pretty dumb. Don't do that. Right.
But you're up here, so
yeah. And so, fast forward, and, obviously with technology going, body cams footage more readily available, cameras absolutely everywhere, iPhones, everybody's got a freaking body cam right here. Right. And, since then, it was a lot easier to find content to then make it beneficial. And that was kind of always the thing, was not to Monday morning quarterback anybody. It was to point out points to where I never thought about this. You think like, oh, I never thought about this point, or that's a really good point. We should discuss this.
Yeah.
And then the crazy part really started happening is when officers from the incidents I would post would reach out. And that happens a lot.
When they reach out, is it more like, hey man, I screwed up and you got a good point? Or are you getting a little bit of kickback where they're like, man, why you putting me on blast?
I have never once gotten kickback, which is super incredible.
That's
never
awesome.
Once in the history of I get about 100 DMs a day, 100, 150 a day. And I have not once from any officer that's been involved say, hey man, well, you weren't there, and this stuff. They've actually been able to provide more information about the incident that I was able to then either go back and edit the post, or if they have information about a certain incident. Because sometimes, I had a guy recently say, hey man, I was just involved in the shooting. Can you please go through it and let me know? And I'm like, absolutely. I could do my best. And that happens a lot. Hey man, awesome. Can you review my footage? And some of the stuff sticks out. Some of the stuff, it's like, man, like you guys did great. I don't know what else to, of course you can always do things better. Right.
But we all
it's
can.
like, but I was like, dude, man, if your commands were great, your cover was great, good shots on target, you shot 4 times, you had 3 hits. Like,
yeah,
sounds good to me. As long as you're good, yeah, that's kind of a cool, it's a good thing about the community. Cause again, we get a lot of trash DMs as well, but
I was going to ask about that, how it is sometimes perceived from the other side of the house or the public.
Yeah. So I didn't show my identity for a very long time. For probably almost 7 years,
which is smart, by the way, from one who doesn't, but
right.
Does.
And it's not that it was because it was like an agency policy thing. It was because even now still, like I'm still very kind of a private person. Like I don't post pictures of my kids. I don't really discuss like where exactly I live or, things like that. Cause yes, I've gotten plenty of death threats, as well as dick pics, unfortunately.
It's Instagram.
It's Instagram. And I'm like, man, and sometimes I'll call and be like, bro, slightly disappointed, but here we are.
Right.
With that, I've had the opportunity to also meet a lot of amazing people and been able to network, and which has allowed me to then basically grow my 2 companies, which is amazing.
It's awesome. One of the things you point out that I want to touch on real quick, and then I want to talk about your companies,
sure.
Is this idea. And I love what you're saying, that the officers that you've heard from have all been positive feedback. And some of them even reaching out and saying, hey, can you look this over and give me ideas? And you said something about yourself that I think is an important point, is that you used to personally debrief after an incident, just your own self. Hey, how did I do? What could have I done better? That kind of thing. And I think that's lacking with some people. I think, and I say this a lot for frontline supervisors, as frontline supervisors, especially your corporals and sergeants at a minimum, obviously above them, they should almost force it after any type of incident that multiple people are involved in. And I love the idea of a self debrief. Can you go a little bit further into that?
Yeah. So the whole like self-assessment process, for me has been huge. And not only do I do it like just when I was a cop, I do it now today, right now, every single day. So the hardest part was knowing how to do it, right? Because if you don't know certain things, you don't know, right? So being able to reach out to more experienced individuals, I mean, just like I tell people on this page, like sometimes I'll get comments like, "Oh, you're Mr. All Knowing." No, I'm not. I have a massive team. And I think people really misunderstand. Every single person's experience is limited. So your ability to debrief yourself is going to be either based on your personal experience or what you personally know, right? So if you personally don't know a whole lot, then the debrief is going to probably be, pretty borderline, just subpar, right? And if your experience is also limited, well, your experience is obviously the best teacher. And if it's limited, well, again, it's going to be just baseline subpar, right? So reaching out and knowing how to take that 30 to 40,000 foot view of the incident took me quite some time to understand. But I was able to. I have a lot of good mentors. Again, I keep talking about my captain and even my lieutenant. We're both jam up dudes, great cops, very knowledgeable about tactics, very progressive. Like they're like, "Hey, I don't know what you're talking about. Can you please explain this to me?" Right? Because maybe they've been in office for 15 years. They don't fucking know that they know like the latest and greatest, and that's okay. And they understand that. So, but they were also kind of in my shoes where they evolved from the 38 to the 40, right? So them going like, "Hey, well, we had to learn these things, right? And we had to tell our command staff like, hey, we have to get better training, and this is how we debrief certain incidents now." So, to make a long story short, being able to reach out to others is a huge factor, and knowing that person is the right person is also kind of very difficult. So, I keep my circle small. So, I heavily relied on my captain and a few other senior patrol officers to kind of help me with those situations based off of what I knew about them and their prior experience, like in law enforcement, because some of them had a lot of military experience too. And that was kind of useful, like kind of mindset wise, I guess, and like kind of leadership wise too. Because leadership there is a lot more structured than in law enforcement. I mean, because you can basically tell whoever to fuck off, and then you might get written up. That's about it. Like you're not going to get fired for it. But in the military, you do that, like your ass is in a sling.
It's not going to end well.
Yeah, no, it's no. You're going to be somewhere where you don't want to be for a long time. So again, that's kind of my way to debrief is learn how to debrief first but also knowing your knowledge and experience is limited. So it is okay to reach out and ask other people.
Perfect. I do want everyone to check it out at the Instagram page. It's Police Post, all together, all one word. Some of your insights have been noticed by some pretty big names, especially on some of these more high profile incidents. Did you not get into a conversation where maybe you were able to provide some insight to Joe Rogan?
Yeah. I've spoken to Joe on multiple occasions. He's a huge fan of the page. There's a lot of people that I've, again, have the privilege of speaking to, reached out to Joe initially, after the shooting in Atlanta, where the suspect took the officer's taser and discharged at the Officer Wolf, I think it was his name. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember on the name, but I remember the incident.
And he engaged the subject, and then I believe the subject passed. And whenever he was talking about that, I just was like, his approach to it was very just from a place of not having experience, not having any insight into why we have to arrest for DUIs, right? Like why we can't just let them go. Right. And that was a whole it's like, well, Joe, yeah, like sure, the criminal side, but the civil liability side is, if you were to let him go back home and get back in a car and kill a family of 4, that contact is still documented. And then it's like, well, he was obviously impaired and you let him go. Why? Yep. And then that goes back on him not doing his job. And then I sent this long text, and he actually was very open. And even since then, he's been asking me about a few incidents here and there. And I'm able to provide some insight. Obviously Texas was a big one. And I was able to provide some insight there as well to him. But yeah, he's He's a great dude, man. He actually cares. A lot of people say he doesn't like cops, which is completely inaccurate, 100% inaccurate. So Joe Rogan is definitely a fan of law enforcement. He knows the necessity. He just wants to hold cops to an extremely high standard.
Which I think all cops want to do that
as
well. Or
which
all
we
your
all
good
should
cops.
want that.
Yeah, we all absolutely should want
right.
that.
And like, again, same thing like Andy Stumpf, great guy, huge advocate for jiu-jitsu and law enforcement. Mike Beltran, I don't know if you know who that is, but he's the
I've heard
he's the
name,
UFC ref with the big handlebar mustache.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. He's been a cop for 30 years. He's actually a full-time police officer. People don't know that. He does the UFC on the side.
Really?
Yeah, he works for Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office, something like that. He's been a cop for 30 years. So
I don't know how the hell he does it. I've been doing this for 3 years and I'm not sure how you do both. But
yeah, I mean, guys like him are phenomenal. Huge reach. Again, there's probably been a number of people that I've had the pleasure of talking to that I can't really remember right now, but obviously Joe Rogan and Andy are kind of the bigger ones that kind of stick out.
Well, that's awesome. I think a couple of things that you mentioned. One is a lot of these guys, we have this weird thing, and it's usually just in the social media circles, which I don't put a lot of stock in what, the Twitter mob thinks, but there's a lot of kickback to, if you call out law enforcement for maybe they should have done something better, or maybe they did something wrong. And as a law enforcement officer, you point that out. There's this kickback that, you hate cops, or why are you doing this? And it's like, that's not true at all. We need to all be honest about, hey, we could have done this better. And what is the overall deficiencies here? Maybe it's a training issue. Maybe it's a lack of equipment. Maybe there are ancillary factors that need to be considered. Did you do just a side note, did you do anything on the Uvalde tragedy?
I did a few posts.
I'm going to have to look back at those.
Yeah. I am one to wait. I enjoy waiting. A lot of people have an issue with that. Post now, post right now, do this. Do you remember that video a while back? You may not remember this entire incident, but there was a video that was going viral of a deputy on a traffic stop. He pulled a car over full of some young gentlemen, and one of the guys had a baggie in his pocket. It was a completely empty baggie, but obviously it had some residue in there or whatever. Well, he just took the baggie and he just threw it back in the car. Right.
Okay.
And the guy's like, I got you on camera. And he's like, cool, man. I got you on camera too. Like, I got you right here. And he's like, no, man, I saw you throw that in the car. And then that 15-second clip just blew up everywhere. And all these pro police pages were posting all this stuff about, cops, he planted drugs, fire his ass, all this shit. And I'm like, hold on a second. Like, you think this dumbass doesn't know he's got a body cam on? Like, right. I was like, let's wait. I'm talking now. Some of these pages aren't run by actual cops or anybody with any law enforcement experience. So I take that as a grain of salt, but there were some that were posting that I personally know. And I was like, come on, man. Like, wait, just wait 48 hours before making a statement on that. And then, of course, when the whole video came out, when the agency released the whole body cam footage, and the guy's like, yeah, bro, I got you here. Like, there's nothing in the bag here. Like, he held it up. He's like, yeah, I got it out of that guy's pocket, which is on his body cam, like the other officer's body cam. And it was like, see, guys, look, now this is the problem is you post things for likes and shares because it's going to go viral and it's going to do, but that's not what's good. That's not what gets you anywhere. People ask me all the time, how did you grow this page to be so big? Well, don't be wrong a lot. That always helps. Like, don't be wrong. You can be wrong some, and I am wrong. Like, right. I've been wrong before on certain situations. I've edited post. I have no problem being wrong. Yeah. But I try not to be wrong. That's always the goal, right? Especially for likes and shares. That's also one thing I've always realized. Do not do shit for likes and shares. That will turn you into the person you don't want to be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, yeah. And I mean, we all are going to get things wrong, no matter how hard you try not to. And when you do, you amend it and you admit to it. And
then you move on.
Exactly. How complicated is this?
Not very difficult.
No. So you alluded to two businesses. So is Police Post one of them? Is that its own company? Or so let me hear about your businesses.
Yeah. So I make $0 off of Police Post.
Okay.
A lot of people are like, no, man, you're probably killing it. No, dude, if anything, I lose money on Police Post.
Really?
So Police Post is just an audience, right? So it gave me the ability to then focus on certain issues that that I was seeing. So as a training sergeant, because I started one business as an active cop.
Okay.
The other business that we just recently started about 6 months ago, I'll get into that later. But basically, I was seeing an issue within law enforcement as I was going. It's like, man, why are these cops, like, why are they not working out? Why are they all fat? Why are they all eating shit food? Like, what is going on here? Now, granted, I didn't have kids. I was a single guy, which, yes, did give me a little bit more time when I got off shift to go.
It helps, but it's not an excuse.
But it's not an excuse.
As one who struggled, I struggle. I'll be completely honest. My audience knows that I struggle with it, and my weight has done this.
Yeah.
So,
and that's pretty normal, right? Like that's like a kind of a pretty normal trend. And so what I ended up doing was my captain tasked me with, coming up with like a fitness standard, somewhat of like a fitness program. I can't remember his exact wording, but I just heard fitness and you go do it. And I was like, okay. So basically I kind of dove into the data, right? And a lot of people have issues with data or studies and research and all this stuff. But again, I went to school.
People give you, you've said that before. So I got to ask real quick, sorry to go down a rabbit trail, but you get kickback on data? Like, why would somebody have an issue with providing data? I don't understand that. Well,
so data can be used as a weapon, right? So you can skew data to make it in your favor, right? So, but the way the data that I was using wasn't really skewing it. Wouldn't make one's point better or worse. So mine was more of like workers' comp claim data based off of injuries, as well as like research on particular movements or particular groups of people, like, units within law enforcement or units within the first responder or even military field. And then focusing on like a certain study, whether it be like anaerobic or aerobic activities, weightlifting, resistance training, all that kind of stuff, and kind of seeing what those studies, or even like resistance training with the accuracy of, a SWAT operator or a SWAT cop or whatever they call themselves now. I can't ever keep track. They change every 5 minutes. But, so I basically compiled all of this, and then I developed a very cheap, cost-effective program. Basically would probably be free for the agency, and I kind of presented it. And at the time it was just kind of like not a priority. Like, we got other things to do right now. Like, yes, thank you, but no, thank you type deal.
Wow.
So I was kind of like, man, it took me like probably almost like a year and a half or so to kind of compile kind of everything to where I wanted it. I went through like a lot of research. What I ended up doing was basically writing a business plan, and
even better
without even knowing it. Yeah. Without even knowing it. And so then one of my best friends, who's a very successful physical therapist, took this to him and said, Hey man, let's go meet for a burger. Let's want to run this thing by you and see what you think. He was like, basically I kind of presented it, and he goes, is anybody else doing something like this? I was like, well, there's other people that are doing fitness, right? You know that stuff. But he goes, no, specifically this. And I said, no, not that I know of. He goes, let's do it. Okay. So then we started. Police Post was not that big at the time. Probably wasn't even half as big as what it is now. And we started off very small. Just me and him. And he had like a PTA, so like a physical therapy assistant that was kind of helping us with some of the programming. And we started basically giving away a lot of information and selling an online digital product to, kind of to the audience. And at the time I was like, man, like, I don't have to work, I don't have to work like extra jobs or extra shifts or any of that stuff. I was able to make enough to where I was, a couple $100. And I was like, man, this is great. This is amazing. And then it started as technology grew and we started kind of getting more capital, right? Because if, when you get more money, you're able to reinvest. So I started reinvesting a lot of that back into the company. Make a long story short, it started to grow relatively quickly, relatively fast. And I wasn't able to spend a lot of time. So I was probably, was working 8 to 12 hours a day as a cop, and then coming home and working 4 to 8 hours on my business and getting 2 to 4 hours of sleep every night. For about 6 months, 8 months. And then I realized this is not healthy by any means. And then, of course, I was getting pressure from command staff. We had a command staff change. And that was, I kind of checked out after that. One of the majors there, and him and I did not see eye to eye. And I don't know if we ever would. And so I was like, you know what? And my business partner was telling me, take a chance, man. You can always go back. Take a chance. Like, this could change. You're such a mission driven person. You want to help as many cops as possible. This is going to help more cops than you could ever imagine. And he's so far been 100% correct with that statement. So I left in 2020, and and so since then, right now, EFT, so effective fitness training, has helped over 22,000 law enforcement officers. We gave away $1 million in agency training last year.
It's awesome.
We are going to do $1 million this year too, giving away another $1 million in training this year. And we have 7 active cops on the team that are all over the country: California, Florida, New York. We're getting one in Texas, Pennsylvania. So we have them. We have, again, a team. It's not just me. I try to tell guys, like, again,
right.
I know every day that goes by, my knowledge of the profession and relevancy just goes away. That's why we got to have active guys. We have 7 active guys that have shit ton of experience, and that's just on the fitness side. So that was basically, in a nutshell, how it kind of got started. And I actually plan on doing an episode on how to start a business as a cop, because I get that question probably
it's huge,
more than anything else. And you should. I think you should.
I think you should too. In fact, it's something I talk about. In fact, it's exactly why I started this, and something I've been a proponent of. And as the world has fallen apart, as you said, since 2020, I think it's even becoming more of something that more people are interested in. Of course, I do see where there's going to be a downside, because your guys that are out starting businesses and stuff are also a lot of really good cops that theoretically should be in this career for another 13 years, those that left at 7. So, so I'm just saying these are the future command staff that aren't going to be there. And as we're seeing the manpower issues which is great for them, but I'm just saying for an industry, it's a little concerning on what the future of law enforcement may look like as we're seeing more and more manpower issues across this country.
I agree. Yeah.
Just so the listeners know, everything on that, it's effective.fitness is the website, effective.fitness. And I will have that all linked up in the show notes. So you mentioned 2 businesses. So real quick on the effective fitness training, just so the listeners can kind of expect or know what to expect there. So is it like live classes, Peloton feeling thing? Or is it like, what do you got?
So, being in the profession, having a lot of cops on the team really gives us a really deep insight into the profession, right? Whether it pertains to what you should be training, job specific movements, etc. With that being said, the team is comprised, again, we have multiple physical therapists on the team. We have physical therapy assistants. Every single one of our active cops has a certified strength and conditioning certification. So they've been to school on this. They're all absolute units. Our head coach, Kelly, she is not a cop, but she owned a gym here in South Carolina specific for first responders. This has been her livelihood for about 12 years. So she's done nothing but strength conditioning for first responders and military. She's an absolute stud. And she's extremely knowledgeable. Her continuing education if I have a question about anything fitness or nutrition related, I just ask her. So basically, when you sign up for us, we offer 2 weeks for free. So sign up, try for 2 weeks. If you don't like it, cancel at any time. So we want to be different, right? Because of course you can Google fitness programs and tactical or whatever you want, right? But we understand that time is very important in this profession. Like you said, it's very difficult sometimes with kids and family to kind of get things done. So our approach is the minimal effective dose. And it's just what is the minimum amount of work that we can put in and get the maximum output that we can possibly get. Right. Because that's always a goal, right? If I can spend 1 minute working out and achieve my goals, then I want to spend 1 minute. Why would I spend 2? Why would I spend 5 if I can just do 1? Right. So our workouts range between 45 to 60 minutes. Everything is laid out for you in a very easy to use app. You can document all of your weights. There's even videos there to show you form, points of performance that can show you form. One of the biggest things that we really enjoy is the community. There's basically like kind of like an active live feed that all the members can go and they can chat. You can even talk to the coaches. So if you have a question specifically about your form, you can actually upload a video of you deadlifting, and one of the coaches will, or one of the physical therapists or coaches will go in there and give you kind of pointers of, hey man, drive through your hips, kind of, or whatever kind of pointers you want. Right.
Yeah.
Kind of regarding that, we also offer nutrition help, nutrition advice. Obviously that's a big thing. It's a big topic, a big issue in law enforcement. So we get that kind of question a lot about how do I eat? When do I eat? How much do I eat? And, to achieve whatever goals you are. So we have that as well. We have nutrition specialists on the team too. So we offer a lot. We offer multiple programs, mobility programs, tactical bodybuilding programs, push-up, pull-up programs, bodyweight programs, no equipment programs. We just released a sandbag program. And all this stuff's included. So you pay one price and you basically get everything that we offer. And that price is $29.95. So for less than $1 a day, it sounds like one of those ASPCA commercials, but basically you get your own personal coach. And if you have an injury, going on, you just send us an email and you'll have a 15-minute phone call with the physical therapist, and he can probably help you just like a one-on-one phone call, and he'll help you with whatever issues you're having. Shoulders, knees, lower back seem to be the biggest issues. We actually have rehab programs for those that are included. So you can do the workouts and then do the rehab programs after to build some resiliency in those areas. So we offer a lot more than that, and all the information is on the website. And we do have an agency program as well, where we just signed a contract with Seattle Police Department for 2 years. So they're going to be implementing our curriculum agency wide. We're actually going there to do a 3-day workshop. So we do travel to agencies and go do workshops. We can help evaluate your current fitness program or whatever, or we can help build one for you. Nice. Which is a little more difficult because there's usually some red tape there with attorneys and unions and all that good stuff. But there's some agencies that are super on board. So in a nutshell, guys, check out the website. There's a lot of information on there.
Definitely. And in preparation for today, I checked it out as well. So effective.fitness, and it's a great site. And you guys have a YouTube channel as well, where you have some good tidbits of information for the effective fitness.
Yeah, we just started that. There's not really much on there. We hope to kind of dive into the YouTube realm. Again, we like to focus on one thing at one time and get really good at that one thing and then be able to develop. But yeah, guys, we have some good stuff in the works. We are working on an instructor certification that will basically allow you to teach our curriculum that is going to be post-certified in multiple states, so that you can implement that during in-service training. Because I know that'd be huge if you had a 30-minute block in service of just nutrition and fitness could help change a culture, right? Because obviously you are what you eat. You eat like shit, you're going to be a piece of shit, basically.
Yeah. No, it's very true. And again, very fortunate to be at a very forward-thinking agency. We have someone on staff who does a lot of this, but and we just have a new gym. In fact, I just met with him the other day because I had some surgeries and stuff earlier this summer that have changed what I was doing. Yeah. And I had hired, just something for the listeners, I had actually hired an online coach. I hadn't heard of your organization a couple of years ago. And he offered many of the things you're saying where it comes to, hey, am I doing this move right? Let me video it, send it to him. And that worked beautifully. So anyone who has any hesitation for what we can do now in the online environment,
it's insane.
Yeah. So this is great stuff.
Yeah. Again, our goal is to be a resource, right? And to be a cost-effective resource. We don't want you to have to go anywhere else. Fuck Google. We want you to come to us. We have people who have been years and years. We have doctors on our team that are willing to talk to you for less than $1 a day.
Yeah. That's awesome.
You
mentioned a second business, Adam. What you got going on there? I got to hear.
Yeah. So this is probably something that I think is the most, I think they all go together, right? So we have EFT, then we have EFC.
Okay.
EFC is effective fitness combatives. So what that is, we basically just call it EFC, is how it all got started was So obviously I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I, train martial arts. I do some striking stuff here and there. I don't claim to be good. I claim to be decent, and I absolutely love it. I started training jiu-jitsu, and I'll kind of give a quick backstory. Is I was making a guy had a warrant, he had a child support warrant. I found him like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning on a public dock. Just going out there and making my rounds. I know this place has high traffic, a lot of drug use, whatever. I just go kind of do my walking, and saw this guy and ran him, whatever. He was super cool at first. He had no issues giving me his ID, anything like that. Ran him, child support warrant. Obviously, either didn't know or didn't like it. And I went to go put him in handcuffs, and he started to kind of resist. Not crazy, just kind of started like the whole little like pull back thing. But I was on a dock, right? So like 5 feet wide, all of like metal wires on both sides. And I didn't know what to do. My mind went, you didn't train for this at the academy. At all.
We're going to go swimming.
Yeah. Like with all your shit on.
Right.
And that could be bad. Luckily, I was able to verbal judo him into handcuffs, and then everything was fine. He was, again, nothing was crazy escalated, but my mind went like, well, I don't know what to do. Like, I just don't know what to do. Besides talk, I'm really good at talking and leveling with people. So that was one of my saving graces, which, side note, social skills is very important for this job.
Yes.
Being able to level with people is also very important too. But that next day, walked my ass into jiu-jitsu school. First day of jiu-jitsu class, I was a 16-year-old kid who wrestled in high school, who wanted to go in the Marine Corps, decided he didn't want to kill me within a 5-minute round about, 5 or 6 times. When I realized a 16-year-old kid with just a little bit of wrestling experience and about 2 years of jiu-jitsu could kill me at his will, was very eye-opening for me.
Yeah.
I was absolutely hooked at that point. Didn't care about belts, didn't care about promotions, didn't care about that. I wanted to acquire skills that were going to, hopefully, I would never have to use them, but save my life if I needed to, or save the life of someone else. So became a huge advocate for that. Fast forward about 6 years now, and I'm a purple belt under Jay Wadsworth. So Jay is one of the co-founders of EFC. Jay is a second-degree black belt under Julio Fernandez. If I get that right, yes, hope so. Jay's he's an active cop in New York. Works for Jamestown Police Department. Should be retiring here soon. And I had an idea, and I said, man, like, there's nothing out there, kind of like what we're doing with EFT on the digital realm. There's one other company out there that kind of has a big name. I'm not going to say it. You guys can use your detective skills to figure it out. I don't want to get sued, but basically, they're kind of the only ones in that space. Well, they also there was just a lot lacking. Not just them. I think what they do is great. I'm not saying it's bad. I just think that there could be something better out there. So I got with Jay and I said, hey man, here's my idea. I want to run it by you. And Jay at the time was working for another company. And I said, all right, I get that, but just hear me out. So we were in talks for about 3 or 4 months. He kind of went back and forth because he's a big loyalty guy. And I said, hey man, I want you to do what's best for you and your family. I said, but this is going to change the culture. This is what we're going to do is going to revolutionize law enforcement training. He goes, okay, man, we've been in business for probably 150 days and we've already been in 20 agencies.
Wow.
We've been sought after by some very large agencies. We just signed a contract with the Michigan State Police. So they're going to be implementing our program agency wide here soon, doing an instructor course there. And the kind of the list goes on. Fort Worth Police Department, Texas Game and Fish, Lord knows many agencies in Florida, New Jersey, New York. We're actually going to be at the NYPD Academy, NYPD BJJ Academy next week.
That's awesome.
So This all kind of started just because it needs to be pushed more. The jiu-jitsu and wrestling based type of curriculum needs to be pushed more with the integration of weapons. And that's where a lot of people don't quite understand the difference.
Yeah.
Yes, jiu-jitsu works. Yes, wrestling works, but there's certain things and certain aspects of those two martial arts or sports that don't translate over well to law enforcement. And so having that law enforcement experience, that law enforcement background is absolutely vital to the correct curriculum and the right techniques, concepts, and principles that need to be implemented into each officer in order for them to be effective on the street.
Is it created just for use in like in-service cycles or what?
No.
Okay.
So
is that a part of it?
Yes.
Okay.
So, we have instructor programs. We have 2-day programs. Our instructor course is 4 days, 40 hours, right? So it's 10 hours each day. It's a very physical class. You will be tested. We also have specialized courses. Like we've done, particularly like SWAT teams and their vehicle extraction, stuff like that, which are, vehicle extractions is also kind of a bigger class that we teach. A lot of people don't, you've seen it. They like to play tug of war with people, and there's sometimes no need to do that. The in-service stuff, it's all about consistency, right? Because, you should be training your defensive tactics or some type of martial art at least twice a week, at least minimum. If anything, twice a month, I'll take it. You're not going to be very good, but twice a week would kind of be ideal. But having the availability to actually have someone teach you this stuff or do it correctly is what's also important, right? Because obviously you want to get good reps in. You don't want to get bad reps of something in.
Right.
We're in the process of launching another course. It's going to be a digital product, but this time we're actually building our own app for this.
Okay.
And what this app's allowing us to do is going to be fully integrated with like a certification system. So you can take, we're about to launch our 3-day user course, which isn't an instructor course online. The instructor course online will be coming. We do suggest, I always say this, online training is great as it pertains to defensive tactics training. In person is going to always be better. Right. I don't care what you say. But the 3-day user course is going to allow you to then look at instructional material taught by Jay and then be able to then train it with a friend or a partner. And you can even go through and hit certain modules, right?
Yeah.
And again, the purpose of this is to take the person who has no jiu-jitsu experience and make them an effective police officer, right? So we make it very clear. It does having prior training in a martial art or sport like wrestling help? Yes, absolutely. It's not going to hurt.
Right.
So, oh yeah, for sure. I mean, in a class, you can tell who trains and who doesn't train almost in the first minute, right?
Yeah.
We always go through the class and always tell people to kind of explain their experience, because sometimes we like to pair more experienced people with less experienced people. And that really helps also prevent injury as well.
Yeah.
Because obviously more experienced people are going to know leverage better. They're going to know their own strength. They're going to know where to put themselves and also not get hurt too. So, again, this all kind of started just because we saw something that needed to be better. And here we are.
I love what I'm hearing. And part of this is very timely because I don't want to speak specifically, but let's just say if
hypothetically speaking,
you go through an in-service cycle and they start bringing in a lot of the Brazilian jiu-jitsu type techniques and stuff like, guys supine, hands up under them, how are you going to get those hands out? Let's say an agency's teaching these moves that are very effective to safely, get the hands, to get them into handcuffs, so forth. The concern, and I've heard you talk about it before with firearms, and I've brought it up recently. It's like, this is great training, but if the next time I see these moves is a year from now, it's worthless to me because I'm going to default back to what I, used to do or whatever. So I love the training and it's very effective, and we all know, and it's going to have safer uses of force, it's safer for everybody involved. and allows you to control that subject in a way that's going to allow for a good outcome. But if you're not training it, like you said, looking at it at least once, twice a week. So that was actually one of the suggestions that I had in this hypothetical scenario, was that why don't we at a minimum put these on video so that at least you can look at them every week and say, hey, what we go over? It is important to have, and I'd be curious on your thoughts on this. It's important for officers to do it on their own. However, I would say it's more important for the agency to be on board, because if the training's coming through the agency, then it's going to help you with liability. So in other words, if you're training BJJ and you get involved in a use force incident and you use training from there rather than what came through the agency, you could end up in a pickle.
Correct. Yes. And so every state that we've ever taught in person, our curriculum is post-certified or COL certified. So whether you're in Texas, Michigan, Florida, South Carolina, Georgia, basically most places in the country. I think we're certified right now in like 17 different states. Some states are harder than others to get certified in. Some states are like, you have a heartbeat? Yeah, you're certified, which is, kind of scary, but you know what? You brought up a really good point too. So, we talk about our instructor course, which is probably our most popular course. The issue that a lot of instructor courses have is, if you've those that are listening, if you've ever attended a course, you go for X amount of hours, they give you a certification, and now your goal is to teach that course, for the next 2 years until you have to recertify. Yeah. Thinking about that is you're getting information through a fire hose, then let's just say our course is a 40-hour course. You're getting a lot of information. A lot of it ties together, so it's not necessarily that hard to retain, right? But if you have no jiu-jitsu experience, it makes it a little more difficult. Right. However, we've kind of found a way around that to kind of help alleviate some of that stress, because as well as I do, you may learn a technique, but then it becomes like the game telephone. Because if you're not if you're not consistently reviewing that information, you're going to miss small details, at the first in service. The next in service, you're going to miss maybe a little bit more, or you might remember one, but then you forgot, then you forgot another one. Right. So, having that continuing education or those reps, that consistency is super important. Right. So we've kind of found a way around that we haven't really released yet, but we are very excited to kind of make instructors again. It's probably kind of the best way to put it, because I know as well, you probably know as well as I do. I've had instructors, I'll kind of go to a class and like, this guy is literally the epitome of a stamped instructor. Like, you have your red shirt, you took the training, but yeah, you don't even do, like, you can't be a DT instructor and not train jiu-jitsu. It's just, agreed. You can't look at me and go, I'm a DT instructor. I'm like, okay, how much, how often do you train? Oh, I don't train. Right. So you're going to go to a doctor, right, that doesn't go to any form of higher education ever. You're just going to go that he graduated med school and he's done. Yeah. Right. Like, I don't even like going to new doctors.
Right. Like, I'm with you.
Yeah. I want that surgeon that's done this thing 30,000 times, not the one that just did it 3 times to graduate med school. Like, no offense to those guys. You're super smart. You're super brilliant, but that's kind of the analogy that we're kind of going with here. Right. So, having that continuing education and getting your agency on board, which luckily a lot of agencies, a lot of command staff cadre have a rank in jiu-jitsu or do have that jiu-jitsu training, which will change a culture.
It absolutely will. And I love what I'm seeing. And I love the conversations that I'm having with people such as yourself and what I'm seeing for the future. So the information on the EFC, that will also be found at effective.fitness. Is that correct?
Negative. So that's going to be efcombatives.com.
efcombatives.com.
And we have all of our courses listed there. We have courses, currently like 10 or 12 courses that are active right now. So I know we have one in Virginia, Florida, Texas, New Jersey coming up, New York, California. I mean, all over really. Again, we do have multiple. That's the thing too, is Jay's not the only instructor. We have 15 other instructors.
Wow.
That work with EFC, and every single one of our instructors is either active or former law enforcement. I would probably say 99% of our instructors have some type of purple or higher in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The majority are black belts. Rob Hughes is a 5th degree black belt, which means he's been a black belt for 15 years. He's got 27 years of law enforcement experience. And the dude looks like he doesn't even look that old. Absolute savage. He owns his own school in New York. Great guy. Jay's the same way. These guys are absolute. And when I say like, yeah, sure, like you can have a black belt, but these guys are like, they compete. They are high level black belts. I've got to roll with Jay multiple times. And again, I've been training for 6 years. I probably have 20 pounds on Jay, and Jay brings it, all of it. And it's, nice. It's incredible to see him work. Truly, even to see his body cam footage, which hopefully we'll be releasing here once he retires. We got some really good body cam footage of Jay doing his stuff at work. And man, these techniques are, I mean, it's people are in handcuffs within 15 seconds of him getting his hands on them, which is, and fully resisting. Right. So like, you know, for people to say, or going for weapons, which is absolutely incredible. Jay's just, he's a unicorn, man. And you should definitely have him on your podcast. He can definitely bring some more insight to you as well. I can get you the hook up there for sure. He just actually did another podcast, out in, he was at, TAC Ops in DC and in Nashville. He was teaching out there as well, but yeah, we're very lucky to have him and guys like Rob, and Henry and all super great instructors. Yeah, man, we got to get you on the program and see your thoughts, because we are going to be releasing it to a few other people prior to launching it to kind of get some opinions on more of like the user interface stuff as opposed to the kind of the content, of course. But we are very excited to kind of move forward. And like the best part is it's going to be super cost effective. Okay. Yeah, I love what I'm hearing. This is really man, dude. Stuff. It's probably being, again, we talk about defunding the police, right? Yeah. Cops don't make any money, man. Like I was a cop in the South Carolina. I started out at like $29 a year. Yeah. Right. Which is like absolutely nothing. Right. So, you know, we were right around 30 when I started as well. In fact, I think we were under 30. It's absolutely terrible. You know, but I was still able to save, and I would used to attend one class a year, if not two. Police Post did help with that. I was able to get into some classes for free just by posting. So that kind of did have its perks, but you know, I mean, man, like just being able to attend these classes and having these life skills, you know, because jiu-jitsu is a life skill. I personally believe that physically controlling another human is a life skill. It's not like a luxury. It's not like it's a life. You have to have that skill, especially as a cop. Yeah. Because it is your job. Yeah. And man, it's just very frustrating to know that there is a resource or, you know, somewhat of a solution to a much bigger problem. You know, and again, we're here to change a culture. That's kind of my goal with this company. Both companies are mission driven. First goal, like we hire and fire people based off of our mission and our core values and beliefs. If you don't believe in what we believe, then you may be a great person, but you're just not going to fit in with us. Because if we're here to change a culture and be the best resource for cops available. Is that your mission statement? Change the culture, or what is your mission? Our mission statement is to provide. Damn, dude, you put me on a spot here. I know. Sorry to do it to you. That's okay. No, man, it's good. But basically, it's you know, our goal is to provide resources and training through our science-driven approach to fitness and combatives, right? So, you know, we use real-world experience, we use data, we use science and research, the latest and greatest, and we keep updating that as the research changes, as the new data comes in. We start to, as new techniques are developed, new concepts are developed, new gear is made, tactics and approach has to change. And a lot of people have been doing the same shit for the past 10 years, even if it's jiu-jitsu related. They've been doing the same shit for 10 years. Shit's changed. Laws have changed. Use of force has changed. One thing that we also hit on a lot, which a lot of combatives or, you know, law enforcement jiu-jitsu companies don't do, is we also focus on use of force documentation and courtroom testimony. Okay. Which a lot of guys say, oh man, like cool, great. You can control the best person in the world, but you don't document that shit right. Your ass can still be in a sling. Right. So that's also another topic we cover, within our training as well, which is, super important. It's huge. Yes. Don't forget the boring shit, guys. The paperwork shit can also get you fired. And yes. And in a shit ton of trouble. So That's also our approach to that as well, man. It's super cool to be able to do this. I'm very blessed. I'm very lucky, and I do appreciate everybody's support. I know our team appreciates it. And again, we got in total between both companies, like almost 30 people on the team, which is super crazy to say because it just started off with me and a guy.
I'm happy for you. That's awesome, Adam.
Yeah, dude, work, bro. Like people like, oh man, it's because of this. Yeah, dude, you know how much I fucking work.
Yeah.
When I left law enforcement, I work way more now.
Oh, I'm sure.
80 hours a week, probably.
Yeah. I have no doubt. I was
it's
out.
Great,
like
I love it. I wouldn't change it.
Well, yeah, because it's different and it's what you're passionate about. So that makes a huge difference too.
My wife would definitely change it, but I would definitely not change it. But no, man, it's great. And I hope to see everybody there at some courses and, and some classes. Check out the online stuff. We have great customer support. Please reach out. We check every single DM on effective fitness training and effective fitness combatives. So if you have a question about gear or fitness, whatever, you don't even have to be a member. Shoot us a DM. Like we give away a lot of free shit too. Techniques, blogs. We write a blog once every 2 weeks. We free programs, free nutrition help, how to calculate macros. All that stuff's free, guys. So much free information we give out because we want you guys to use it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so, any way we can help, we're here.
Sounds good. I'll make sure I get all that linked up for everyone. Effective.fitness. Before I let you go though, Adam, I got to ask you one more question. We didn't even get into deer hunting. I was going to talk to you about that, but that may be
real quick. We're good. Let's do it.
That may be a future conversation.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I do have to quickly ask, you pretty much just hunt in South Carolina then, or do you make any trips anywhere?
Predominantly hunted South Carolina. I did. I used to fish a lot in Florida.
Okay. Saltwater?
Yeah. Oh yeah. All saltwater. Yeah. I mean, I'm in Charleston, so yeah, I'm all saltwater. And sometimes offshore. I used to, if it's a big enough boat, I'll go offshore. But yeah, we do a lot of inshore stuff here. Mostly deer hunt, and turkey hunt. I'm not a big bird guy. I'm not a dove guy. I'm not a waterfowl guy. I'm not a marsh hen guy. I just like deer. I like to bow hunt, deer hunt. That's it. Or big game, I guess you could say.
And primarily all bow hunting, right?
Mostly bow hunting. Yeah. So when I was in college, obviously I actually used to live on a farm in college. So, in order to eat, cost effectively, it was, whatever was within 400 yards.
I love it.
Yeah. And, that was always the best bet there, but yeah, man, bow hunting, I got back into it, as I, started making money, I guess, and could, afford actual food. And man, I absolutely love it. There's nothing I would rather do more than to be in a tree and it's 30 degrees out in the morning. I absolutely love that. So
yeah. Oh, I'm with you. I'm from Northern Indiana myself. In fact,
shit, you got big deer up there, man.
Yeah, I was going to say you get all the cornfields and right up there by the Michigan border with the apple orchards, you get some monsters.
Oh man, you got some big deer up in Northern. Yeah, because I went to South Bend when I was in 7th grade. I went to go visit Notre Dame.
Okay. I was gonna say, why would you go to South? I forgot about Notre Dame. I'll give you that one.
It was like a school trip. And we went to visit the campus and it was in January. And it was, man, I'm again, come from South Carolina, seeing snow. I was like, man, this is, I don't know what to expect, but man, it was actually, it was pretty cold. Went to Michigan a little bit. I guess this is not too far.
No, not at all. From South Bend.
I mean, it was very eye opening. My first trip up north was then, so it was cold.
I love it. We'll have to talk more about that some other time.
Anytime.
Let me ask you my one question I ask everybody. We've given a lot of great advice, but before I let you go, what is the one takeaway, the one thing that law enforcement officers can do that's going to make a difference in their personal lives?
Value your time. And what I mean by that is this job is a job. And what I mean is it's the best job in the world, hands down, the best job in the world. But if you have time to spend with your family, take that time. If you have time to spend with your kids, take that time. Value your time. If you want to start a business, do it the right way. Value your time. Reach out to people. That's the biggest. It's not even the money, because you can get money. You can make money. Money comes and goes. But time, every second that you don't use is just going away. And so I really want you to, that's the one thing, value your time, whether that's in your recovery, like you're trying to decompress, value that time, get some sunlight, try to prioritize sleep, just value your time. And that's, I actually struggle with that a lot. Yeah. And I'm also learning. So if you want to learn with me through my journey of trying to value time, put the fucking phone down, get off Instagram, spend time with your kids, put on some music, dance around, fucking be yourself, be happy. Cause this profession, just like I said, the biggest threat to law enforcement is law enforcement itself. And this job can get you sucked in. Don't let it. Just, you're going to be a better cop if you don't.
That's such great advice. Well, thank you, Adam. I really appreciate it. We've mentioned several, and I'll have everything linked up. What is the best way for people to connect with you?
Connect with me. You can try to DM me on Police Post. I try to answer as many as I can. I get about 100 to 150 a day. I do have somebody helping me run that page now. Because that page is an absolute monster. Ryan, he's a cop out in Florida currently. But again, if you have any questions, we check every DM on effective fitness training and effective fitness combatives. So please feel free. We do have active cops that do check both pages. So if you have any questions about law enforcement or gear or just whatever, and if it's if you guys want me to be on your podcast or you guys want to host some training, send us an email, send us a DM, and we can get you to the appropriate contact there. So I really appreciate your time, man. This was absolutely awesome. And I'll definitely have to get Jay on your podcast. I think you could really definitely pick his brain because that man can talk.
I'm looking forward to it. Well, thank you, Adam. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And that does it for this week's The Interview Room. I hope you really enjoyed it. Another great guest will be with us again next week. We have a great lineup for you here over the next few weeks and on through the rest of the year. So you're definitely not going to want to miss a single episode. We also have Morning Roll Call, which typically comes out on Monday mornings. However, I may change my mind, and who knows? It could come out a different day of the week. But Morning Roll Call, check that out as well. That's just me talking to you, and it gives us a few minutes to go over something, anything from news or something actionable that matters, hopefully, to you. One last favor, please, whatever service you are looking at or whatever service you are watching this on, you're listening to this on, please leave us a rating and review. 5 stars, that would be the appropriate number of stars. If for some reason it's not 5 stars in your opinion, or if it is, tell us why. We would love to hear it. I would love to get your feedback. In fact, I'm going to start reading some of these reviews on the air. I've been looking at some of the ones on Apple Podcast, and thank you for the phenomenal reviews. And thank you all for taking the time to listen to this. I hope you're really enjoying it. You all have a safe week out there, and I will see you next week in the interview room. I will see you next week in Morning Roll Call, but in the meantime, I'll see you on the blue line.